Hey guys, so I'm recording this video to automate another test case which we have. So test case number 34 is what I'm going to automate in this video. And while automating this test case, I'm going to explain few more concepts of Cucumber as well as Selenium. So while automating this test case, I'm going to touch base on a concept called as background in Cucumber. And from Selenium side, I'm going to talk about actions, because if you see, the test case is about user is able to hover on accounts and list on header menu. So what I'm trying to do is to hover my mouse or mouse over my pointer to a specific element, and that would trigger a behavior in the application which will give me a fly out pop-up, under which we have other elements on which we need to do some operations. So the second concept of Selenium which we are going to talk about, and the third thing is we'll talk about a dynamic XPath, which we already discussed last time. So like creating XPaths at runtime, right? So first let me tell you about the scenario which we have here. So this is a scenario, and you know we are automating Amazon.in. So let me just tell you that first what we'll do, we will open the browser, because we already have a step for all these things, right? Open the browser, navigate to a specific URL, and then you see here we have a hover coming like this. So as soon as you do accounts and lists, you get these elements here, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to learn some concept in Selenium which is called as actions, because in Selenium we don't have a direct way of moving the mouse, and this is, I'm not actually clicking on this, I am actually moving my mouse here, right? And just moving my mouse is triggering a behavior in the application, that is a fly out pop-up, right? So that is what we're going to see in this part of the video. And second, we're going to click on these links, and we will not be adding these elements for clicking. We're going to use a dynamic XPath for these, so that all we need to do is to pass the text of the link, and as soon as you pass the text of the link, it will automatically will generate the XPath for us based on its text, and then it will click on it, right? So that is the three primary things you're going to see in this, apart from other things which we actually, of course, while doing it, I will keep on telling things. So we'll also talk about creation of branches. I'll also show you how to create a PR and all those things. All of these we have already covered, but I'm just for the sake of repeating it, so that gets you get better understanding of it, I'm going to do that again. So let's get started. So first and foremost, what I need to do before I even go and start creating a test case, I need to clone the project. And you all know that our project is kept at this location, which is Vision IT Batch 8. This is where our project is, and we have already automated around 4 test cases under this framework, and we also spend quite a lot of time in framework development. But framework development doesn't stop here; it keeps on evolving, by each test case development. So since we are using this specific repository, we need to first clone it, and after cloning, I need to create a branch. Why? Because for each addition into a framework, whether it be a framework enhancement or it could be a test case, whatever code change is happening, that code change has to happen in a specific branch of its own. And once you create that branch, then you're going to do your stuff in that specific branch. And then once your job is done, what you do is you merge that into the master. That we have already covered in our last sessions, right? On when we use git pull requests and merging and conflict resolution things, right? So similar thing is what we're going to do here. Right now I'm in master, but I'm not sure whether I have a latest code there or not. So what I'll do a right click, team, and do a pull. And this operation will tell me if whatever I have at the local is latest. That means there is no other code which is present in the server which I don't have, right? And if there is a such case, then it will just pull it back. It will pull all the things which you have at the server, and it will update your local repository, right? Sometimes it so happens that it gives you an error. It says we are not able to pull it because it will override some changes. That usually happens when you have something you have done in it, and if you do a pull, your local change might get overwritten, right? So it will stop you from pulling it. So remedy for that is, let's say this change which you have done, you don't bother about it, right? You don't want to keep it. So what you can do two things. Again, this is a Git operation which I'm telling you. So if you are in a branch and you don't worry about whatever changes you have made, you want to remove, you want to done with all the changes which you have done, which is of no use to you, right? That means you want to resort to the original version of the master branch. So what you do, you go here. So you have two options. One is you do a replace with head revision. When you do that, what will happen? The latest version of that branch will kind of override the existing, the local copy of it. The idea is whatever changes you have will be overridden, and the latest copy, which is the head revision, the last revision which was there in a local, will be brought to the local, your local workspace, right? This is a risky option because let's say if you want to do, you have written something but you are not very sure whether you want to keep it or not, and if you do this, it will wipe your changes out. It will completely remove it. You will not be able to recover it. So instead of doing this, what you can do is you can go to team and you can do a stash. Okay, so you have two options. Either you can stash it. Stash means it will not commit it, it will not clean it, but it will remove it and it will save it somewhere, so that if you want to recover it later, you will just use stashes. You will use git command git stash and the stash ID, and it will just give you the latest or whatever changes you have made earlier. So stashes is something which you can use to wipe your local changes which you don't need or which you're not really bothered about much. But if you do this replace with head revision, this will actually remove everything. So be cautious when you use this. Right now, I am very sure that I don't want anything, which is I have the changes which I made locally. I don't want anything of that. So what I'll do simply head revision. It will discard changes. And if you notice, it has changed, removed this values which I have written here. It has wiped it out. So right now my master is latest here. I've already pulled that into my local, and I have also cleaned out all the junk code which we had, which I didn't want. Next thing which I want to do is, since I have the latest code, now comes the step of branch creation, right? I want to automate which test case. Where is that? 1 minute. I want to automate test case number 34. Right. So what I'll do, I will go here and I will right click on this and do a team, and I will do a switch to, and then I will do a new branch, because as I said, I want to work on this new test case and this demands a new branch. So I'll do a new branch and I'll write test case 00034. And I can also write some description, because that is good, because when you check branch into the GitHub, it will tell you what that branch specifically means, right? So I'll write here accounts list mouse move, right? Something like that. Brief description should be enough. Then click on finish. Right now I have created my branch, which is this. So from now onwards, whatever code I'm going to write, it's going to be is located inside this branch, and it will not affect any other branch. So even if let's say I don't want this branch, I can even delete it. Whatever code I've written under this branch will also be wiped out. But if you want to keep it, what you have to do is, right now this branch is kept locally. The changes are there. Whatever changes I'm going to make, it's going to be local. So I will have to commit it. Right now, if I go here in the GitHub, you will not see this branch here. It's not yet committed to this repository. To do that, I will have to push it, but I am not pushing it. I have just created this branch locally. So whatever change I am going to do, it's going to happen locally. And once I think, okay, I want to publish or commit this branch, then I will commit my changes along with the branch, and then it will get populated into the GitHub repository. And once I make my first commit, immediately I should go and create a PR, which is pull request here, so that the reviewers can start reviewing my code from day one, from my first commit onwards, right? So let me start making changes here. So since I am on my local branch, I can start working on my test case now. So again, I'll go back to my test case. This is my test case 34. This says user is able to hover on accounts and list on header menu. So as we discussed, as I told you earlier, this is what I'm willing to do. So I will just hover this here, and I will have to click on any of these links here. So let me start. So I will start by writing my scenarios, right? Because that's what we do in Cucumber. So let me first start by thinking where I should be adding this test case, right? So I have only two feature files, homepage.feature, search.feature, and this test case is about header. So I will prefer to keep this inside homepage.feature. I will not go and create a new feature file. So I will use this homepage.feature where I'm also keeping my header test cases. So if you see, I have a test case validated header links. So I am validating all these links and I've kept this inside homepage.feature. And I will also again incline to keep this test case again on the under homepage.feature only, right? So let me quickly write the test case for this. Okay guys, so I've quickly written the test case scenario, which is scenario number 24, which is validate accounts and links fly out pop-up. So this is scenario name which I have chosen to give. Then in the given, I have browser opened and URL is navigated, for which we already have a step. When I move mouse on the accounts and links, and I click on your account link in the accounts and links fly out pop-up, then I navigate to your account page, right? This is what I have written, and since this is coming in the color yellow, it means the step definitions for these are not there. And if you notice, I have made these as parameters because I would like to make use of these links or these step definitions or these steps further in my other test cases, right? So that's the reason I have parameterized these. So for example, if I want to make use of, or I want to do a mouse move operation on maybe some other elements, then the same step is what I'm going to use, right? That is how you visualize what needs to be parameterized and how you can reuse these steps, because every time you create these steps, you need to think of reusing these steps. Another thing which is important while writing these scenarios is you should not be writing very basic fundamental steps. So I should not, instead of writing, I shouldn't have written, for example, given I have browser open, a URL is navigated, when I move mouse on accounts and links link, and when then a pop-up is displayed, then I click on a button, right? These kind of statements should be discouraged in a BDD format, because this BDD format, whatever text which you're writing here, should be a broad level. It should not be minute level detailed information about what you're going to do in the test case, right? So that's the reason. Even this, I click on this also is not a very good format of how a Gherkin scenario should be written, but for the sake of, because this is a tutorial, I am choosing to do this for a better understanding, right? But in actual real-time projects, it's always discouraged to enter minute level details. So it should be focused on what and not how. When I say how, that means when I click on something. Now this is a how statement. Rather, I should have been simply said, when I move mouse on accounts and link, then something is displayed, which is enough. I shouldn't be writing when I click on specific elements. So there is a way of writing these Gherkin formats, which we may understand better. And then the Cucumber also, there is a good tutorial on how you should be writing those. Maybe I'll share the link as well in the comment section or in the description section for that, so that you can read about how to write a better Gherkin scenario, right? So instead of digressing further from the topic, let me complete this test case, right? So next thing which everyone knows we should be doing is create generation of the step definition. So let me also do that quickly. So simply to do that, as we always do, we copy the tag, we go here, and in the temp runner file, we paste it. So we have these 3 runner files created. Every time I do this, I explain this. This is for temporary purposes. Run test is what gets executed via Jenkins or Maven. Runtime UI, runtime API is only for debugging or running it from your Eclipse, right? So I'm making use of this. I'll say dry run as true because I don't actually want to run it. Then I will just do a run as JUnit test. These are the missing steps. I'll just copy it quickly. I'll go back. Let me see which step definition I should put these definitions. So I already have a homepage step definitions. I'm using this for all my homepage related stuff. So I will just keep it here. Simple as that. Then let me just quickly import these when statements. Right. So I have when and then present here. So now I can start writing my code. So first statement is when I move mouse on a specific link which is being provided from here. Let me start writing its step definitions so that you understand how I am using the page object model here and how I am fetching the elements from there and I am performing operations on it using actions class. So to perform an operation on the element which we have here, where is the element? So this is the element. This is the element, right? So I need to first get an XPath for this. I will do an inspect and let me just quickly, I think we already have it. So this is a header and we already added under our page object model file, which is search page objects. No, sorry, common page objects, because we are keeping all the common elements in a separate file called as common page objects. And if you notice, we should have it, which is this navigate link account. So we have that element. Now, next thing which we need to do here is we need to perform an operation on it, right? So in order to perform an operation, we know that we directly cannot use it because it's private. So we need to create a method directly here in the same class. We'll say public void, and I'll write move mouse on, maybe I'll say accounts and list, maybe something like that, okay? And next thing I would like to do is I will like to make use of a class in Selenium called as actions. I'm going to create an object for it. Actions, by the way, guys, there is a better way of doing this. I should not be doing it here. I should make use of an existing library which I already have, which I am extending here called as interact. I should have been making these changes or creating a reusable method here called as actions or move mouse or mouse over or right clicks, right? All those operations should be writing here. But for the sake of simplicity, maybe for this video, maybe later I'll move it here. But for now, I'll just for demonstration purposes, I am doing it here. So actions, then here I will write driver. 1 minute. Let me remove this one now so that I can directly import it. So this is the actions class. Actually, I made a mistake here. It should have been actions, right? So this is a library available in the Selenium for doing all the operations, which is not typically be able to do using Selenium library, which is clicks, right clicks, right? So for example, the different user interactions where you have to move mouse, you have to scroll, you have to drag and drop, right? You need to do a right click, also called as context click, or you need to do some various key combinations. For example, press Control, Shift and do something, Control A, Control C, like multiple combinations. So various keyboard operations, keyboard combinations, and various mouse operations. These cannot be directly handled with typical default Selenium operations like click and all, right? So for Selenium, we only have click and set mostly, right? But in order to do other operations, we need to make use of this actions class, which is again a part of Selenium. It's not something different than Selenium. It's within the Selenium library. But to do similar these user interactions, we need to make use of this actions class. And in this case, since we need to move our mouse, we are going to make use of this. Right, so we'll simply import this. As I said, we should not be doing it here. We should be using another layer, which is the lowermost layer of our framework called as interact, where we keep all the actual operations which usually happens on the elements. We do not use page object model for this, right? But for the sake of explanation, I'm doing it right here. Maybe I'll move it later to my interact library. Anyway, now next is I need to pass a driver here, something like this, which I do not have directly. So what I'll do, I'll call a method called as get driver, which is again is present inside interact. If you are watching this maybe for the first time, then it might get difficult for you to understand what it is. But we have this layer called as interact layer, which is the lowermost layer, which handles everything from driver and elements interaction. And we pass our driver here in the set driver. Once the driver comes here from the constructor, we call set driver, and driver gets set inside the interact library. And once we have it, in order to access this driver again anywhere, you need to make use of get driver method. And that is what I am actually doing here. I'm writing get driver here, right? Now, once I do this, then I have lot of methods available here at my disposal to do things. So for example, I have click and hold. Now this is again an operation. Context click is right click, double click, drag and drop, right? Key down, key up, move by offset. For example, you want to move your mouse but to a specific distance, right? So you can use move by offset, right? So there are different, different available. Even send keys is present here. You want to send combination of keys to a specific element. Right, so all of the typical UI operations which you would have on any UI, you will find a way of doing that inside these actions classes. As simple as that. It's very, very good. Now, it is in this action class is actually designed on a very specific design pattern. Maybe you can understand it, or you can know, or you have heard this term called as method chaining. That means you can chain this, or you can have a sequence of operations in tandem. For example, I want to do a click, then I would like, let's say I want to do a click on this element, and then in the same statement I want to do, let me reproduce it, some mistake I made, it seems. So let me give a proper example for, let's say, double click, for example, this. Now this is not actually it will not work on the by. Let me give you that example, 1 minute. So maybe when I do actions dot maybe double click, so it will do a double click, then I can again add another operation in tandem, that means in sequence within the same statement. So I can say double click and then immediately do a right click, context click. Then I will have to call these two important methods called as build and dot perform. Okay, build means it will first combine these two statements together. So this will be, this whole operation set will be built, and then when I call perform, only then it will actually get executed. So that's how a method chaining design pattern works in Java. So it's a Java concept of a typical design pattern called as method chaining. And that's how, that's on based on that design pattern, this action class has been built. And this, it works in different, in this way. So if you just leave it like this, it might not work for you, or maybe it will just not work, because in order to make this sequence work, you need to call this build and dot perform operation, right? To practice this action class, there is a very good website available. Let me show. So this is a website called a jQuery user interface. You can really practice if you want to really understand how this actions class work. It's very good. You can try many operations in this, which is not very, can be handled directly with Selenium.